was you almost didn't double up Michael Cruz in the finals, David Lacey. Congratulations, David Lacey and Goku. Down in the comments below, leave your choice for the wild card. If you see your choice, try your best not to leave duplicates. If you see your choice, give that one a thumbs up. But let us know who Dave's gonna defend here in Detective Wars, and come back next time for the first opening round matchups.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to some more exciting opening round action of Detective Wars. Now, guys, I've already promised them that it's going to be exciting.
Yes.
So now it's on you.
Oh, sorry.
To my left, we have David Lacey defending the wild card this round with Rorschach from the film Watchmen. And over here, on the other side of the tiny little silver table, Mark Petro is defending Marge Gunderson from Fargo, don't you know?
I do know.
And that's the last time any of us will use that accent.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, see
there
you
you
already
go.
ruined it. As always, 2 minutes for opening arguments, 1 minute for rebuttals, and then some open-ended, spirited debate for our closing thoughts. Are both of you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do it.
Because I spoke to the coin earlier. He called me from a payphone on a high. He wouldn't tell me where he was, but the coin says that Mark is going first.
Excellent.
Your 2 minutes starts right now.
All right, so I want to talk about the detective debate here on a 4-point basis here. I'm basically going to just wrap this all up in 4 distinct points, okay? First up, we're going to talk about our characters' sort of lives, right? They're what, you know, whether or not they're a detective, home life, mental stability, all that. Then we're going to talk about the origins of characters, where these characters came from in the artistic context. And then we're going to talk about the quality of their information gathering technique and their reasoning skills, which I feel are 2 very important points of detectives. So, Marge Gunderson, she is a detective originally. She became the police chief, and now she is 7 months pregnant by the time we catch up to her in 1987. The context there is in 1987, there weren't many female police officers and there weren't many female police chiefs. Currently today, we only have 212 police chief officers who are women. The first ever was Penny Harrington in 1985 in Portland, Oregon. Now see, that's a direct facsimile, I would think, to Marge Gunderson. Now, there's a difference between Portland, Oregon and Minnesota, which is where the Coens are from, in that they, political differences, they're a lot more conservative there. So Marge Gunderson had to have been a fantastic detective to get this job. It was not a political maneuver to put her there. And the fact that she's 7 months pregnant and out doing her job is amazing. And the interrogation techniques she uses are repeatedly pressing facts and with kindness and making the subject cracked. And she is very, very good at just reasoning technique and putting pieces together.
All right, cool. The 4-point approach to debate. Dave Lacey,
Yes.
How do you parry that thrust? 2 minutes, go.
All right, first off, I want to thank everybody for not trolling the bracket and picking Rorschach. He's awesome. He's a great detective, and I'm super excited to defend him. All right, here we go. Here's a few things I want to talk about of him as an investigator. First off, you got to remember that Rorschach keeps a journal of all of his investigative findings. That's important because he works mostly solo, and that way, if anything happens to him, there's evidence of what he's been doing and who's committing crimes. Super important. Next up, when he is investigating the murder of the comedian, which, by the way, he's one of the few people who knows he's the comedian, he is able to find his super stash behind the closet. He pushes a little button and finds his costume and his gun and all the proof. Cops don't even know who the guy is. They're like, whoa, this guy's built like a linebacker. Who could he be? Here's a picture of him with the president. Well, Rorschach knows, and he found his stuff. Not only that, but he ascertained immediately that the comedian could not have been killed by a common burglar. When Night Owl 2 was like, oh, maybe a burglar did, he's like, ridiculous. Because that's how he is, that's how he rolls. And not just that, he deduces pretty instantly that someone might be picking off masked heroes in order to do some horrible, nefarious deed, and of course he ends up being right. He's not only an investigator, but he's a protector. He keeps tabs on all the other past Watchmen, especially his good friend Night Owl, to make sure that there isn't a serial killer out there killing him. He wants to make sure that he protects the people he cares about, which I think is really important. Also, he's got amazing infiltration and stealth skills. These are really important in investigation. For instance, he sneaked into a highly guarded military facility in order to warn Dr. Manhattan and Silk Spectre that there might be a guy going around around killing masks. Now, this is also really important because you think about it, Dr. Manhattan is the most powerful weapon on the planet, which means this is probably the most secure facility in the entire world, and he just ninjas right through there, just walks in the front door. Nobody sees him. He's amazing. Also, he's the only hero to know the identity of all the other heroes and their status, what they're up to. Nobody else in the world is like that. He's got it locked down.
All right, how do you rebut all of that? 1 minute, starting right now, go.
First up, I don't want to downplay Rorschach. He's amazing. One of my favorite characters of all time. But getting back to my 4 points, his home life, he's a broken person. But that's part of what makes him great. But he is a broken person. He's not legally speaking a detective, but he does detective work, so he's a detective. But I mean, he's an unlicensed private detective. People do hire him on occasion. I don't know how the money works out there, but he's definitely a vigilante. And when we talk about the origin of his character, he's kind of based off Batman, but not really. He's more based off The Question or Mr. A. Both not real people. So you can take or leave that as you please. Some people prefer characters that are totally not real. He gets all this information that you talk about through only physical violence and intimidation. And I would say that's not as good of detective work as Marge Gunderson's.
How do you respond to the accusation that Rorschach is a bully? 1 minute, ready, go.
You know, Rorschach does have some advanced interrogation techniques. Jack Bauer could probably learn a little something from him. You know, he gets the job done, and also he only uses that violence against people that deserve it, against criminals and lowlifes. You know, Marge actually isn't based on a real person, per se. The actual idea for Fargo came from a story that they heard about someone killing someone with a wood chipper. The actual story is completely made up. But, you know, maybe you could say she's based on some people. But this is the thing about Marge. You know, she's not really solving a crime by a master criminal. I mean, that crime, the triple homicide, super, super messy. And really, I gotta be honest, I feel like any barely competent investigator could have figured it out. I mean, it's wide open, it's snow covered, there's footprints everywhere, it's not super hard. And not just that, she seems really, really smart because Lou, her deputy, is a total moron. I mean, the guy's basically Barney Fifing around. So Marge, she's smart, but she's not like a super genius. And also, frankly, she's bad at reading guilty people. There were at least 2 people in this movie that lied right to her face, and she had no clue they were lying.
All right, putting the stopwatch down. Mark, get our final thoughts going.
Yeah, so you say that Marge didn't realize when somebody was lying to her face. Now, as I recall, she pretty much knew. She was able to put all the pieces together, but she has to follow due process. She, unlike Rorschach, has to follow due process. She has to follow the law. Rorschach gets this advantage of being a vigilante. He can act outside the law. But that makes him more of a vigilante and more of a hero, a superhero, right? He's like this Batman-esque character that goes around and fights crime with his fists and not his brain. Marge Gunderson, though, has to follow due process. She's the police chief. Yeah. There's more at work than just solving this one crime in that story with her. She's also dealing with political situation of the county lines and all that. Right. She has to be working on this higher level, and she ends up getting it all pieced together. I
mean, listen, she's a fine administrator, county lines, that's fantastic. Rorschach is figuring out the most deadly conspiracy in the history of mankind. Rorschach is attempting to stop something that literally is an extermination of millions of people on Earth. Marge, she's figuring out a triple homicide. Yeah, she follows due process, and Rorschach doesn't really worry about that. But at the same time, the first time she interviews Jerry Lundegaard, he is so unbelievably sketchy, and she doesn't even think anything is like weird about that. And the second time she interviews him, even when she thinks that maybe there's something up, he literally had to flee the scene of the interview for her to finally realize that something's going on with this guy.
All right, so that scene, she knew he was lying. I mean, she's a real person. She is not going to sit there and be like, oh, that's a micro twitch, you're lying.
She's doing on TV all the time, bro.
Because this is a realistic story. This is a true crime story. It's fiction, but it's true crime.
Right.
She's going to be repeatedly pressing the facts over and over and over again until he finally cracks. She is able to really break him down through her actual legal interrogation technique.
She didn't really squeeze him. I mean, it was all the other stuff around him with the kidnappers that were like, I'm gonna kill her, and the father-in-law not really doing. I mean, she was there to kind of poke him a little bit, but he was already like done.
He was already gone, but she got the information she needed. She was able to put it all together. And all this while carrying a baby, while dealing with being a police chief. Mm-hmm. And while, also having to deal with a manic depressive husband.
I mean, he's an artist, man. That's not fair. He's an artist. All he wanted to do was have his beautiful art on a stamp, okay? Don't be a snob, okay? And honestly, she's only the chief because, as I said before, everyone on that police force can barely put on their pants in the morning. They're so freaking stupid.
All right, so final thoughts, sum it up real quickly. What do you got?
As a detective, you can jump to these superhero sides, these like fantastical sides, or you can jump to where like detective stories originated, which is true crime, true like gritty detective stories. And Marge Gunderson is sort of like this penultimate answer to that. The Watchmen is not a detective story. It's a superhero story with a detective subplot. And Fargo is a detective story. It's a true crime story, and I think it's a better representation of a detective.
Really, I think it comes down to the villains in this. I mean, Margie's going against a pancake-obsessed kidnapper who can't put a sentence together, and, Rorschach's going against the wealthy and smartest man in the world, who is, by the way, also able to circumvent someone who actually had superpowers in that world. When Rorschach, he's just this guy, but he's a rad guy.
Well, there you have it. That's Rorschach versus Marge Gunderson, and maybe I'm the first person that's ever said that sentence.
Possible.
It's possible. Get down in the comments below and let us know who won this thing. There's a comment down there that says, like this comment if Rorschach wins. There's another comment that says, like this comment if Marge Gunderson wins. Let us know what you think. Also, make sure to check out our other opening round matchup that's up right now. It's John McClane versus Veronica Mars. So go check out that one, vote that one up as well, and come back next time for more Detective Wars when we move into the semifinals.
Watchmen, the movie, failed at one thing.
Yeah.
It's almost a noir. It was almost a perfect noir.
Well,
they didn't
yeah, it was a
have
noir.
Rorschach in every single scene.
Every time I see Jackie Earle Haley, I think about him chopping his own balls off in Little Children.
Oh, I never saw that, so that never happened.
Spoiler alert! Oh, yeah.